Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as the Buddha, was a profound spiritual teacher whose life and teachings have had a transformative effect on millions of people across the world for over 2,500 years. His story is one of profound awakening, sacrifice, and deep compassion, and his teachings serve as the foundation of Buddhism, one of the world's major religions. This biography seeks to provide a detailed and accurate portrayal of the life of the Buddha, incorporating deep research and focusing on the major events and principles that shaped his journey and legacy. 1. Early life, the Prince of Kapilavastu. Siddhartha Gautama was born around 563 BCE in Lumbini, near Kapilavastu, in present-day Nepal, into a royal family of the Sakya clan. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled the kingdom, and his mother, Queen Maya, passed away shortly after giving birth to him. Siddhartha was raised in luxury by his father, who sought to shield him from the harsh realities of life, determined that his son would follow in his footsteps as a king and avoid any encounter with suffering. From a young age, Siddhartha showed exceptional intelligence, curiosity, and compassion. Despite being surrounded by wealth and pleasure, he grew increasingly dissatisfied with the sheltered existence his father provided. At the age of 16, he married Princess Yasodhara, and they had a son named Rahula. However, the comforts of palace life did not satisfy Siddhartha's growing curiosity about the world outside the palace walls. 2. The Four Sights and Renunciation. The pivotal moment in Siddhartha's life came when, at the age of 29, he ventured beyond the palace and encountered what are known as the Four Sights. These four encounters fundamentally altered the course of his life. 1. The first sight, an old man. Siddhartha saw a frail, bent old man, a sight that made him aware of the inescapable nature of aging. 2. The second sight, a sick person. He then saw a sick man, writhing in pain, which revealed to him the prevalence of illness in the world. 3. The third sight, a dead body. A funeral procession showed him death, an inevitable fate for all beings. 4. The fourth sight, an ascetic. Lastly, he saw a wandering ascetic who had renounced worldly pleasures to seek spiritual enlightenment. This sight inspired Siddhartha to pursue a path beyond the transient pleasures and sufferings of the world. These encounters ignited within Siddhartha a desire to seek answers to the profound questions of human existence. Why do we suffer? Is there a way to end suffering? Deeply moved, Siddhartha decided to leave behind his family, wealth, and kingdom to embark on a spiritual quest. He renounced his princely status, left the palace under cover of night, and began his search for enlightenment. 3. The Quest for Enlightenment. For 6 years, Siddhartha wandered through the forests of India, studying under various teachers and practicing extreme forms of asceticism. He learned meditation techniques from prominent spiritual teachers such as Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta, achieving deep levels of concentration but not the enlightenment he sought. Dissatisfied with these teachings, he then turned to severe asceticism, fasting to the point of near death and enduring harsh physical austerities. However, this path of self-mortification did not bring him the wisdom he sought. Realizing that neither extreme indulgence nor extreme asceticism led to the truth, Siddhartha embraced what he called the middle way, a balanced approach between the extremes of self-denial and sensual indulgence. This profound insight would later become central to his teachings. 4. Enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Determined to find the ultimate truth, Siddhartha sat beneath a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, vowing not to rise until he had attained enlightenment. For several days, he meditated, confronting his inner demons and temptations, represented in Buddhist tradition by Mara, the god of desire and death. Mara attempted to dissuade Siddhartha by appealing to his ego, fear, and desires, but Siddhartha remained steadfast, focusing solely on his quest for truth. After intense meditation and deep introspection, Siddhartha attained enlightenment at the age of 35. He realized the profound nature of existence and the causes of human suffering. He discovered the Four Noble Truths, which would become the foundation of his teachings, and the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide for ethical and mindful living that leads to the cessation of suffering. In that moment, Siddhartha became the Buddha, meaning the awakened one. He had achieved a state of complete understanding, wisdom, and compassion, free from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara. 5. The Buddha's teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. The Buddha spent the next 45 years of his life traveling across northern India, teaching the Dharma, or the truth of his enlightenment, to all who would listen. Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as the Buddha, was a profound spiritual teacher whose life and his teachings centered on the Four Noble Truths, which are 1. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Life is filled with suffering and dissatisfaction. Suffering comes in many forms: physical pain, mental anguish, and the inevitable struggles of aging, illness, and death. 2. The truth of the cause of suffering, samadaya. Suffering arises from craving, attachment, and desire. These cravings are fueled by ignorance of the true nature of reality and lead to a cycle of endless dissatisfaction. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha. It is possible to end suffering by eliminating desire and attachment. This state of cessation is called nirvana, the ultimate goal of the Buddhist path. 4. The truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, magga. The path to ending suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. It includes right understanding, understanding the true nature of reality and the Four Noble Truths. Right intention, cultivating wholesome intentions free from desire, ill will, and cruelty. Right speech, speaking truthfully and kindly. Right action, acting ethically by avoiding harm to others. Right livelihood, earning a living in a way that does not harm others. Right effort, making a conscious effort to develop wholesome qualities and abandon unwholesome ones. Right mindfulness, maintaining awareness of the present moment in one's thoughts, feelings, and actions. Right concentration, developing deep states of concentration through meditation. 6. The formation of the Sangha. One of the Buddha's earliest teachings took place at Deer Park in Sarnath, where he delivered his famous first sermon, known as Setting in Motion the Wheel of Dharma. In this sermon, he outlined the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, explaining the essence of his teachings. This sermon also marked the beginning of the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns who dedicated themselves to the practice of the Buddha's teachings. The Sangha grew rapidly as more and more people, men and women from all social backgrounds, became drawn to the Buddha's message of liberation from suffering. The Buddha emphasized that his teachings were accessible to all, regardless of caste, gender, or social status, a revolutionary concept in the rigidly stratified society of ancient India. 7. The Buddha's last years and parinirvana. For 4 decades, the Buddha traveled across northern India, teaching and establishing monastic communities. His teachings attracted kings and peasants alike, and his reputation as a wise and compassionate teacher spread far and wide. At the age of 80, the Buddha fell seriously ill. He gave his final teachings to his disciples in the town of Kushinagar, where he passed away peacefully, entering parinirvana, the final state of liberation beyond the cycle of birth and death. Before his death, he encouraged his followers to rely on the Dharma and their own efforts for their spiritual development, reminding them that all conditioned things are impermanent. 8. The spread and legacy of Buddhism. After the Buddha's death, his teachings continued to spread across India and beyond. The Indian Emperor Ashoka, who ruled in the 3rd century BCE, played a crucial role in spreading Buddhism throughout his empire and sending missionaries to other parts of Asia, including Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. Over time, different schools of Buddhism emerged, interpreting the Buddha's teachings in various ways. The two main branches are Theravada Buddhism, known as the teaching of the elders. Theravada emphasizes individual enlightenment through personal effort and strict adherence to the Buddha's original teachings. It is practiced primarily in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Mahayana Buddhism, meaning the great vehicle, Mahayana emphasizes the bodhisattva ideal, where individuals seek enlightenment not just for themselves but for the benefit of all beings. Mahayana Buddhism became prominent in East Asia, particularly in China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. It also gave rise to other traditions like Zen and Pure Land Buddhism.